I was abandoned twice in my life. I was abandoned when I was a baby. I was 2 weeks old when I was taken from my mom. She was 17, pregnant, not married, and in those days it was really hard to do that. And so she had been with my dad, just living with him, and then she wanted to go home to her mom. So she came home, and a week or two passed, and she said, my grandmother said, we got to go to downtown, no questions, just get yourself ready, we got to go. And she's like, well, why do we have to go? And she didn't answer her anything, and she said, okay, well, I'm going to leave the baby here. We're going to go. And she goes, no, bring the baby. And she's like, well, why do I have to bring the baby? No questions, just do what mom said. So my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mom went downtown, and they had approached the building, and there was a lady that came out to greet them and everything, but she wasn't a real nice lady. She had told them that because you're 17, unmarried, and you know, we can take your baby from you. She goes, no, you can't take my baby. And she goes, yes, we can, and we're going to do that. And so my mom was just grabbing me and holding me, and the lady proceeded to just grab me out of her arms. And my mom was screaming and, you know, yelling and everything. And she said, well, I'm sorry. If you come back with a marriage certificate, then within the week, then you can have your baby back. And she's like, you know, she's just devastated. And so she's like, okay. She goes home, calls my dad. He's in New York. He gets back. They get married. And they go back to the lady and present the marriage certificate to her. And she says, well, I'm sorry, your baby's already been adopted out, and it's closed adoption. So at that point, here she is, married now and no baby, and it devastated her. And I was later told that my adopted dad was up in the building on the second floor waiting with my mom. So she took me and went up the stairs and passed me over to them. And she said, you have to hurry out because she's coming back. The birth mother's coming back. So they proceeded to go to California, and that was that story. I never saw my mom or dad again. And then in my adopted father and mother situation, he was an alcoholic and womanizer, and so we would see him. We would see him a lot. We were preferred the marriage, the kids of his, but he was out there and drinking all night long. And I remember my mom just waking us up at 11 o'clock at night and just saying, "Wake up, your dad's home." And we're like, "What? Go make him his dinner. Here's his dinner. Set his table." And so we had to do that and honoring him. And I'm like, this is crazy, you know. And later on, they got divorced. And 16, he left us, abandoned us, and that was it for that. I was just devastated. My abandonment issues were when I was little. I was always wondering if I had the love of an adult. Like, am I worthy to receive love? And even during school, I would see parents all together, and I was the only one who had abandonment issues, and I didn't want to go into the adoption and all that. But I felt insecure and unworthy. Like I'm just going through the motions of life, and as a little kid, and I'm enjoying myself, but at the same time, I'm wondering, do they care, you know? Where is my mom thinking about me, my adopted mom and dad? You know, do they know my birthday? Do they remember it? Do they even know my name? They probably don't even know my name, you know, and just swinging in the swing sets. It just was real deep and real hurtful. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I belonged. God has healed my life tremendously in reconciliation. I said that my adopted father left me when I was 16. We were then reconciled when I was 36 years old, and I was able to meet with him, my sister and I, and just lay it on the table and just say, Dad, this is what you did. How could you? And, you know, I want to forgive you, but I also want to share my heart with you because you heard it. And, you know, you weren't there for my wedding, you weren't there, and I just listed. And he sat there and he goes, you're right. You're right. I apologize to you. I want to get it right. I'm so sorry for everything I've done. And it was just weeping and weeping. And oh, wow, it was great. So from that point on, he would come to my house and oh, I just love him dearly. Just squeeze him. And he had come to my house the one time I was vacuuming. He was sitting on the couch and he came up to me and gave me a piece of paper with phone numbers on it. And I was like, what is this? He goes, it's your roots. I want you to know your roots. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking at it, I go, uncle and grandfather? And I looked at him and I go, who are these people? And he said, that's your relatives, your biological relatives. And I'm like, oh, wow. It felt like someone hit me at the back of my leg. I felt like I was going backwards, but I really wasn't. And I thought, Dad. And at that moment, I had a decision. Do I forgive you because all along you've known? Or do I just give it to God? I said, Lord, I give it to you. I don't want any bitterness or anything. I said, Dad, that's so great. So I called them, and I was reconciled with them when I was 38. Both my parents are still married to this day. I have 2 brothers, 4 sisters. I'm the oldest of the family, as well as with my family. Ongoing, talking, reconciliation. God is so good. I love him, and I was like a Joseph, and he brought me back, and I'm so thankful because I am so happy to know that God loves me. He really does.